Hello everybody, this is then the second example, and we are going to use an array that's declared in a module so that an MDI application, multiple forms, can share the array data, and the array would be gradually filled with data. I then again took planning document C, available on Vitella, and we are going to have a look at this program. So the user interface says code an MDI application that opens multiple forms. We need to code an MDI application, store up to 10 expense amounts in an array, fill the array with data as the amounts are entered, and I've got a menu with options file and exit, expenses. I can either add expenses or show the expenses, and add and show will open appropriate forms. So form add expense, there would be a button and a text box, so user can enter the expense amount in a text box and click on the add. It should say not add number but add amount button, and again if there's space in the array we're going to store it, otherwise we're going to tell the user the array is full. In form show expenses, form load event procedure, so this happens right at the start of the program. We're going to display all the expense amounts currently stored, and there's a button on that form, show expenses as well, that's going to display the total of all the expense amounts for me. Okay, so we need to make sure that we understand and know exactly what we need to do in the program. We can then start again with the data. Now this time around I've got different forms that's got to share the data. So to use a module with the data is just a lot easier. And let's just call it module array. I will have a variable max. Data type would be integer, and we need to store 10 amounts. Then the array name wasn't specified, so amounts, normally we go for something that's plural, max -1, and this would be decimal, hey, because we need to store numbers. And then filled array will always have array count, that's an integer, and it starts at 0. Okay, those three things would be needed in the module. Only those three things. Okay, so if I go have a look at the event procedures, so I would definitely have form main menu. For each of the menu clicks we are going to, can you remember what happens when we need to open a form? These three things, hey? So same as before, wherever we've got a main menu that's got to open other forms, we need to specify the steps, create the child form, assign the MDI parent form, display the child form, and these would be for the two menu names given, naming conventions followed as previously specified. For now we might not have a procedure or a function, so we can simply delete that step. We will definitely have some event handling procedures. So first of all, for form and expenses, we need a button click event, and the button event procedures name would be button add amount. we need to get an amount from the user, and this time around from a text box as was specified, and we need to go and add this to the array. And my steps are quite the same as before. Declare the variables, get the amount, test if the array has space. If it has space, store the amount, increment the counter. If not, display an error message. So the equivalent VB statements would be to test if array count is less than array amount dot length. Save the amount, increment the counter, display an error message. My next event procedure would be for form show expenses, and it's a form load event procedure. So we can just enter form load or form open, doesn't matter. They would do the same thing. So this is executed the moment the form is first displayed to the user. In a list box, same as before, we can call this list box output. We need to display all the data in the list box to the user. And really same as example 1. I need to declare the variables, clear the list box, traverse the array from 0 to array count -1, display an array element, and the for loop and the equivalent list box name would look exactly like that. I've got a last event procedure then to code. So for form shown, form show expenses, I need a button click event, and it's called button show total. I am going to need a variable called sum, and this I'm also going to display in list output, and it's not another variable, it's one of my output variables. So the steps in English are something like this, and it comes directly from the array algorithms. So I need to initialize the sum to 0, traverse the array from start to end. I can specify here to array count -1. I need to add the array element to the sum, and after the loop, display the sum. And here we've got the VB steps. I just need to count as another variable. So we initialize the sum, a for loop to go from 0 to array count -1, add the array element to the sum. As you become a more experienced programmer, I think you are going to use statements like that rather than the first one that I've displayed, and display the sum we don't need to show. Okay, so we need to have a good look at our algorithms, see if we need anything, if anything is good. So I'm just going to go from the top. We need module level variables. I'm going to call the module, let's call it module data rather. I'm always going to call my modules module data. It's got a constant max, the capital word in the name. All capitals indicate that. Integer, it stores 10. Then I've got array amounts, it's a decimal, and array count, that's an integer. I don't need to specify form exit, that menu item, but the other menu items will create a child form, assign the parent, and display the child form. And these 2 menu click events that I'm going to specify for that. For a button add amount in form add expenses, I'm going to get an amount from the user, test if the array's got space, store the amount, increment the array counter. If there's no space, display an error message. Seems fine. And then in form show expenses, form load or form open, so that it is executed right at the start of the program. Clear the list box, for loop to traverse the array, and I am going to display every array element. It looks fine. Lastly, we need a form show expenses still, a button click event procedure called button show total. I get my English steps from the algorithm. We need to just go and indicate the VB steps that's necessary. Again, that looks fine. So I am going to use Excel this time around for the data, just because I'm using numbers now, hey. So let's assume step 1 would be add an amount, and let's say the amount would be R12.99. Let's make it R120.99. So that means in my array, 120.99 would be added to the first element. Let's go indicate the elements like this. I'm only going to add a few, and array count after this will store 1. If I go have a look at another step, let's say that my program executes. Let's go and add another amount. Let's go for something like R85.77. Then if I take my array with the previous data, the 85.77 must be added in the second element, and the array count must become 2. If I just go and add one more step, we're going to add an amount, and let's go for R345.67. That means my array after this will have the 345.67 in the next array element, and array count will store 3. So now if I go and calculate the sum, the end result would be, can you remember, I would use B15, and I'm going to add C15 and then D15. So the end result, if I go add the sum, let's go for another step, step 4, display the data and the sum. This would be the sum that's added. Let's go and see if my program, I definitely want to keep the data, if I write the program from this. Okay, so to save a bit of time, I've done all the basic things that's needed. I've got a main menu form with the file and expenses on the screen correctly named. I've got a form add expenses that can get an amount. There's a button, and we're going to display a message as well. And I've got form show expenses with a list box as well as a show total button. So the first thing we need to do is to add a module. I'm going to do it as follows. Right click on the project itself, go to add, choose new item, and we simply need to choose a module and give it a nice name. So module data, it's going to store my data for me. Switch on the options always. Real needed. So I need as a public constant max, and we said there's got to be 10 elements in the array. Then I need public array amounts max -1 as, and this will store decimal values. And then lastly public array count as integer. The equal to 0 is not needed, but it just confirms with you we're starting at 0. So that part exactly the same as the planning that we needed. There's our program, sorry. And if we go to the planning, exactly those things that we needed from the planning. Main menu is already going to open the different forms for us, and the exit option closes the application completely. So we can go have a look at form, expenses, and the add button. And for the add button, we are first of all going to add the comment, same as before. Can maybe just increment this a little bit to show this is what's going to happen when we do have space in the array. So if I go to find the variables, I need only dim amount as integer. Oops, no, not integer, decimal. I'm going to get the amount from the text box. Oh boy, do you know what? I didn't rename the text box. Let's quickly go and do that. So txt amount. Txt amount of text, and I can just, same as always, ask the thing to convert my data. I need my if statement now. Apologies, I've just increased the font a little bit. So over here I've got my statements. What I am also going to do is I've placed another label onto the screen, label message. So I want to just tell the user, no, everything was fine. And I can do it maybe like this. I've got amount that's stored to string, and now it would be nice to format it. It's an amount, so C2. So I can specify amount, need the in bracket there, and then the words added successfully. Like that. I am still going to display error messages in a message box because that is real needed. That should take care of button expenses. If I go to the button show expenses, then again I need a form load event procedure. So if I double click on the form, the load event procedure will automatically be opened for me. Again, I can copy the comments I've added the comments to the form show expenses load event procedure and the code as well. So this will display the data exactly like before in the list box. I need button show total to also do a job for me. So if I go and copy that and add the statements, and here all the code is almost complete. I've got my comments, I've got my statements, so all that is left over would be maybe to say items.add, and maybe I want just an empty line. So let's just give it a space. And another add, but over here I want to display the sum and the actual sum that we've got. Sum dot toString currency to that's definitely something that I can go and look at. Over here at the top where I display the amount, I would really like to do some currency formatting as well. And I need the in bracket. That's what the thing is moaning about. Okay, so all that's left over for me would be to see if my program behaves. So if I were to run the program, it says there's build errors, and you will never do that. Character not valid. Oh, this happened when I copied the code from Word. It didn't use a minus, it used a dash. So if I again say run, all looks fine this time around. Let's go have a look at my program itself. Right at the start, if I show expenses, there's none at all. Show total will tell me there's a 0 total. If I go add and we say 120.99, add the amount, and we've got our confirmation. I can go clear this text box. It would be nice to do so. Add the amount. Let's just go add the last amount, 34567. If I now go to show expenses, I've got the 3 amounts. If I click on show total, just scroll down, open up my application again, total is displayed correctly. If I go add another account, expense, let's just go add 100 Rand, because that's easy enough to take into consideration. I've got the right data over here. And now you need to test your program thoroughly. It mustn't ever give an error message. Okay, and we are done. Our program, MDI application that uses different forms to store and access data in an array, is complete. Thank you.